Welcome to Business and Balance. We'll be talking about marketing, mindset, nutrition, and massage. So all of the elements that hopefully will come together for you to empower you in work-life balance, work-life harmony, however you think about it. Really looking at how you can build your business and also keep a healthy mindset and just life in general, right? Because for a lot of us, work is our life. So so Ashley will be speaking first, followed by myself. Then we will have Kathryn talking about nutrition and Charles talking about massage. So I'll have each of you go ahead and introduce yourselves and then get right into your presentation, if you wouldn't mind.
Hi, I'm Ashley Senk, and I am a marketing strategist. And I'm excited to be here today. And the Business and Balance Retreat has evolved into this webinar today, and I'm really excited that we're now able to offer it for free. And while we were initially looking forward to connecting in person, we've decided to take this twist and bring it to you this way, which is really exciting. So I'm going to dive right in. Or are we going through all the introductions first?
Go ahead and dive right in.
I'll dive right in.
Perfect.
For most of us, balance is all about time. So have you heard the saying, time is money? I kind of want to know what that means to you. So feel free to comment below and tell me what time is money means to you. For me, time is valuable. You want to make sure that the time you're putting into your business is worth it. Balance is this sense to me that having the time to be successful at your work, but also being able to experience other areas of your life that are meaningful to you. Whether that be being a good partner, being a good parent, focusing on your health, your nutrition, or just focusing on having fun. That's why I'm excited that we're all able to be here together today to talk about business and balance, because all these things work together to create balance for you. Everyone has different versions of what balance means. So we're going to look at some different tools and information so you can get that balance that you're looking for. Let's dive into the marketing aspect. My main goal of today is to give you time to reflect on your business instead of working in it, and give you a few tools to consider. One of the things that is highly talked about in marketing and social media is that feeling of burnout. So how do we market our business without feeling like we don't have the time for anything else? I know this is a big area, especially for solopreneurs who are trying to do everything on their own. Many business owners feel that working on their business and working on marketing in their business leaves little time to work on doing the actual service that they love and are passionate about. So one thing that I found is that a lot of marketing revolves around your mindset. Mindset affects every area of your business, including what types of services you're providing, what types of processes you have, and what type of marketing you're putting out into the world. I'd love to go into a few examples. So let's start with the service example of mindset. I want to start by asking this question for you to reflect on. Are you energetically attached to your marketing? Are you trying to market the services or courses that you're passionate about? I was recently helping a coach who was trying to sell a course for the longest time. Now, this isn't her main source of income, but she put time into gathering the information and prepping out the materials. So she obviously wanted to sell the course, but I could tell that her heart wasn't in it. And when I had a deeper conversation with her about it, you could tell that the whole dynamic of the conversation changed. There was a mood shift. Our seemingly pleasant conversation turned into a rather discouraged conversation. So this is what I believe about the services that you're providing and the mindset that you have. You have to believe in what you're selling, or your customers will not. You have to be excited about what you're doing in your business. People feel that energy that you bring and that you put into your marketing efforts. Whether you have a negative mindset when you go to create a social media post, or you roll out of bed showing up to a networking meeting and you talk about your services with little emotion, people feel that. And I want you to take a look at your current offers and ask yourself, are you energetically attached to the marketing that you're putting out there around each of those things? The second example I want to give is around your processes. Your processes drive everything you do in your business, and your mindset controls how much you spend on your processes and the importance of how you manage your daily workload. Your processes will play a huge part in whether a customer wants to work with you or not. If you spend time marketing your business, which we all do, you want to make sure that the processes that you have set up are working for you. So what does this look like in a real life example? So that there's a coach that's looking to offer a new service, but she hasn't really offered that to anyone else before. That means she's creating a product from scratch or a service from scratch. Her packages aren't set, and her current email templates for customer interactions don't really make sense for a new offering. Having the mindset behind your processes means that you are willing to take the energy to map out what it could look like for your customer and pivoting or making adjustments when necessary. When you're offering something new, it is okay to make changes to your process. However, you still have to be confident in your offering. Otherwise, you may lose interest. A third example I want to talk about is the mindset around your current marketing you're putting out there. I see so many business owners burning themselves out because they're trying to do it all. You have to be okay asking for help. You have to be okay assessing what is manageable for yourself. And lastly, you have to be okay saying no. For this, I want to share a saying. Our capacity does not equal our obligation. This applies in a few ways. When it comes specifically to social media, just because a new social media platform rolls out doesn't mean that you need to be on it. If social media is something you struggle with, maybe it's time to outsource. And same goes with just because your friend is on TikTok or one of the other platforms doesn't mean you need to be on that same platform. Take a look at what works for you. If you're anxious around finding time to create posts, or if you feel like you don't have the right mindset when you go to create posts, maybe it's time to look at outsourcing. Another way to look at this is through networking events. We all go to them, and either you love them or you hate them. But just because you're able to find free time on your calendar, doesn't mean you have to show up at every single event you hear about. And this can feel hard. It can feel like that FOMO, that fear of missing out. But going back to being energetically attached to your marketing, if you don't have the energy to show up with enthusiasm about what you're doing, you will not be representing your brand well. Are you going to be doing more harm than good by just being there, being another body in the room? Another one that I hear a lot from small business owners is sponsorship opportunities. Everyone's looking for a sponsor nowadays. There are opportunities available everywhere. You can't say yes to them all. Choose those opportunities that are most strategic for your business and where your passion lies. The other thing I want to talk about is feeling enough, because I think a lot of times when we talk about marketing, we think social media, and we immediately direct our thoughts to, do we feel like we're enough to post on social media? Do we have the perfect pictures? Do we have the perfect imagery or videos? Do we have the perfect things set up in order for us to get started? But I like to say action over perfection. Just put something out there, get started. And as you grow more confident in posting on social media, your consistency and feeling of growth comes with that. You'll learn more and more about social media the more that you post on social media. I want to dive deeper into the time conversation in regards to your marketing. I briefly mentioned a few time-saving tips, but I want to talk about them a little further. So automation and AI are highly popular tools to give you more time in your business. And this is something that you can use to feel like you've got more time back and to have that balance. To me, it's highly important when I'm using these tools that connection with my potential clients or customers still feels human. I think a roadblock for many people is that using these tools will take away from the opportunity to have that true connection. And I think that's why a lot of us have gotten into having our own business, is so that we could feel that connection with the customers that we work with. However, I think that there's still ways to use these tools and incorporate that human connection. Our attention spans are shorter than ever, and automation also helps to keep business owners to have their processes and marketing efforts feel more consistent and better attended to. So I want to mention a few automation and AI tools, and start off by asking, have you guys used any AI and automation tools or tools that help you with the marketing in your business? Feel free to drop them in the chat. I want to see what tools you guys are using. Now, I want to share a few of my favorite tools, starting with social media management. Some popular tools that I've used and that I love and that have a smaller cost to them for small business owners are Meta Business, Later, and Loomly. So these are 3 platforms that I've used before, and I really love using them, because not only do these platforms help you to schedule out content and really have that focused time in creating and scheduling out content so you don't have to worry about it every single day, but it helps you to generate ideas and allows you to get that planning, and so that it doesn't fall off of your to-do list. I think that's a big one, is social media tends to come last. And these tools allow you to make it easier so that you can incorporate social media into your business, even if you're small. Email marketing and automation is another one. This allows you to create designed email messages for your email list, and also set up things like a welcome sequence or a freebie campaign for new subscribers. So 2 of my favorites are ConvertKit and Flowdesk. Some other tools that I want to mention, we've talked a little bit about onboarding. I think onboarding is very much part of a marketing tool. Your onboarding will help to determine if your client stays with you. It will help to determine their experience as they get started. And it will help to just overall make the feeling of connectedness happen right off of the bat. So a client onboarding tool that I really love is called Dubsado, Dubsado. It allows you to set up client workflows and automate your invoicing and contracting process so that you can get that information over to people seamlessly and make sure that there's not a missing touch point. Two other ones about workflow and workload management is ClickUp and Asana. These are two that I've used that I really love because it helps make sure that you don't forget something. So I use it for a variety of things in my business. I program all of my tasks in there and set deadlines and business goals. I also use it to plan my social media, plan my marketing campaigns, plan all the things around my marketing through these programs so that it can help keep me on track. A couple other ones is ChatGPT. A lot of people talk about ChatGPT, and I think this is a big one for people that are looking for time-saving hacks in terms of spending less time creating copy on email or social media or any of their other marketing website pages. There's lots of ways that you can use ChatGPT. And I think it's a great tool, but I think it's important to learn how to use it if it's something that you're looking into. ChatGPT can spit out a lot of generic things unless you know how to use it and put in the right content prompts so that you're getting the right information for what you're looking for. I think another point to come up with about ChatGPT is it is great, but I also think you need to have a lot of confidence in what you're doing in your business in order to use it. You need to have the right language that you want to be using in your business. Language is super important. And so being able to translate that into how you want to show up as your brand is super important, and making sure that ChatGPT is being used in the right way so that those prompts are coming out effectively. Another tool that I want to talk about is Read AI. If you take a lot of notes, or if you, in your onboarding process or in your daily calls that you have with clients or anything like that, if you're doing any virtual calls, Read AI is a great tool. It gives you meeting notes and action items from your call so that you don't have to spend time taking notes during your call. I really love this tool, and it's also a great way to, screenshot PowerPoint presentations that are happening. I've seen a lot of people using different meeting tools, and I think that's super effective when you have a lot of marketing things happening because it allows you to make sure you're tracking everything in that process when you're talking about them through calls or meetings. So I dropped a lot of tools with you today. I want to see if there's any tools that you've used. Feel free to drop those in the comments. Maybe you've thought of them now that we've talked through them a little bit more and talked how we can use them from a marketing lens. Let me know if you've been using any of these tools or if there's any that you're really wanting to check out for your business. I'm really excited to hear what our other speakers here today have to say. And so I'm going to kick it off to the next speaker, but feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and we'll talk more about how you can bring balance to your marketing efforts.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. That was fantastic information. I will get that information from you so that we can put this out on social media and get that out to everybody.
Thank you.
I myself actually took notes, so thank you. All right, so we're going to jump right into empowered mindset. I have some notes for you, and I will also share a little bit of my screen so you can see where we're going. So empowered mindset kind of stems for me from my desire to, my curiosity around how the brain works. So I'll start out with a story. Of course, I'm Jessica of Yoga Story. And I wear a number of different hats: podcasting, payroll manager, all of the things. We won't get into too much of that. We have a limited amount of time. But since I started Yoga Story back in 2016, I had primarily focused my business on movement of the body, basic anatomy, and how to guide physical practices for all bodies. I've worked with a number of different people, a number of different body types, a number of different body abilities. And I remember one private client who, after our session, so our session was part movement, but it was also part meditation. And she broke down and started crying. And she didn't know why, but even before she started crying, I had already intuitively felt that there was something going on, that something had shifted just as she was taking time for herself. She had been holding on to so much stress, not only in her body, but mentally and emotionally. And she shared a little bit about her story as she was breaking down crying. And she wasn't sad. It was more a release of that stress that she had been holding. Now, I knew that in that moment, my job was simply to allow her space and permission to release that emotion. And I don't hug all of my students outright or clients, but in this instance, and with her permission, it seemed appropriate. Touch can be very comforting. And though we often talk about mind and body as though they're separate from each other, I've been lately using this idea of whole body experience, because they're interconnected, our brain and body interconnected. The physical, mental, emotional experience are biologically interdependent. And over the last couple of years, I've gotten more and more interested in how the brain works and what habits and practices can help us to move, think, and emote intelligently and with greater compassion, both for ourselves and for others, and with greater empathy. So some of the resources that I've looked into and that I highly recommend using are Huberman Lab, and that's hubermanlab.org, and just so much information out there on anything under the sun that you want to dig into the neuroscience behind. I also highly recommend for emotional processing, Hilary Jacob Hendel's The Change Triangle. To learn a little bit more about mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn's Full Catastrophe Living. Also Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score. I'm sure that I probably butchered that last name. Which is an exploration on the need for multiple modalities to heal trauma and to process emotion as well, through how we process emotion through the body. So I got very interested not only in the physical parts of our yoga practice, but also in the mental, emotional things that are going on as we're moving the body in general, not even just in a yoga practice, but any time that we're moving the body. And any habits and practices that we're doing, anything that we have habituated, and how those are affecting our mind and body. So I think about this idea of mindset and resilience, and how resilience, I have come to understand, or I believe is a combination of understanding our mindset, the things that we believe about ourselves, about the world around us. Resilience is also incorporating mindfulness practices, so observation without attaching value judgment to what we're observing. And then also gratitude practices. So looking at how we can see what we have and not only what we lack. Certainly we'll want to be aware of the things that we need, but our gratitude practices, being thankful for the things that we have individually, but also extending that gratitude to others to deepen those bonds with other people. My definition of empowered mindset is that it is a way of thinking that is characterized by a belief in our intrinsic value and self-worth. This is important for business because it helps us keep going in the face of challenges. This is important for life because it gives us permission to set boundaries and make clear decisions. Resilience, or our ability to adapt to change and move with emotional intelligence through challenges and difficult situations and choices, is a set of practices that help contribute to our empowered mindset. And that set of practices is self-inquiry. So looking at our mindset, why we believe, what we believe, and why we believe those things. Again, mindfulness, observing our experience of the world without attaching value judgment. We always have some judgment that helps us make decisions, but we're not looking at our physical, mental, and emotional experience as though they are good or bad. We're simply observing and seeing that they simply are. And then again, gratitude practices. Acknowledging difficulty, but also being aware of what we have and sharing gratitude with others. And when we put all these things together, we start to build greater self-awareness, greater self-acceptance. When we have greater self-acceptance, we can start to move with empowerment in any space, whether that is in our business, in life, in all of it, in work life. And then another part of building that resilience is mindful movement. The spine protects the spinal cord, which is our sort of internal line between brain and body, that sending of messages throughout the nervous system. Lastly, so how do we pull all of these practices together? I have created, I think, with what is a useful tool for thinking about how to incorporate different practices and habits into our day. There are, as I have looked into reading, research, all of that kind of thing, 7 different habits that are research-based that are helpful to our mind-body experience, our whole body experience. And those are nasal breathing, hydration, journaling. I forget all 7. Sleep, proper amount of sleep or rest at the very least. Social connection, and there was recently this year, the Surgeon General put out an entire report with a bunch of different research about the importance of social connection. So what did I say? Hydration, journaling, social connection, nasal breathing, that's breathing in and out through the nose, getting sunlight, walking, and sleep. So how do we plug these things in? Now I have this dated for an earlier session, for a session that I did obviously earlier in August, but you can plug in your own dates here. You can create your own chart. The way that I look at this, because our schedules are all different, I don't think about scheduling things out in terms of times, like 8 o'clock, noon, 9 o'clock, but rather when we wake up. What is the first thing that we can do when we wake up to start to build that empowered mindset through self-inquiry, mindfulness, gratitude? A number of us do gratitude journals or do gratitude lists at the beginning of our day. So whatever the beginning of your day is, maybe you keep something bedside that you can write in, connecting both the gratitude practice and the journaling practice. Things that you can do when you're out of bed, mindful eating. Maybe that first bite, you slow it down, you observe the food item, you smell, you taste, mindfully taste, really enjoying the experience of whatever, maybe it's just coffee or whatever beverage or food that you're having when you are out of bed. Then before work, what are some of those practices that you can incorporate? Sometimes we think that we have to jump right into our day, or we'll get behind. But a lot of times our energy is built up by putting our self-care practices first, by going for that walk, by taking a moment to meditate, to pause, by journaling, or just doing some breathing, some deep breathing exercises. What can you do during breaks or during your lunchtime? Maybe this is a space, if you are in person at work, maybe this is a space where you connect with others and engage in that social connection. Again, whatever your schedule looks like, this, I think, is a fantastic way to break it down, because it doesn't say you have to do this at this time, but rather it encourages you to look at breaking down your day in terms of when you wake up, you're still in bed, out of bed, before work, breaks and lunch, after work, and then right before bed. What are some of those practices that you can incorporate? And there may be other practices that you already do or that you want to do in lieu of. So journaling, for example, maybe isn't for everybody. Maybe your this journaling exercise is a using intellect and hands, which stimulates neural connections in the brain. So maybe your thing is gardening, or is art, or is carpentry, putting something together. So in some way using hands and intellect to stimulate the brain and improve brain function and all of that. So the key, one key, is thinking about your wins. You don't have to do everything. You don't have to necessarily do all 7 items. You can put those different items together. Maybe you're walking with a friend in the sunlight. So you've touched walking, you've touched social connection, you've touched sunlight. Maybe you have, again, other practices. Maybe you pick one thing that you want to start incorporating in your week. The big thing to remember is to celebrate that win. Most of our experience is dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine to make us feel good and motivate us, serotonin to make us feel good and content. So pairing those two things together with, pairing those things together by celebrating whatever win and not quantifying it. We're not saying that any win is small or big. Oh, I did all 7 things. That's great. That's awesome. Celebrate that. Oh, I did one thing. That's also great. That's awesome. Celebrate that. So that is empowered mindset. And if you have any further questions for me about the yoga, meditation, mindset coaching that I do, you can find me on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or just drop a comment, and ask whatever questions that you have in the space. So with that, I think we will go ahead and turn it over to Kathryn, who will be talking about nutrition.
Hello, I'm so excited I get to talk to you today about food and eating. Because we all love food, right? But eating well and navigating nutritional information, especially when you're busy, you're trying to build a business, you have a life outside of what you eat, which is pretty much all of us, it can feel really complicated and it can feel really overwhelming. And I'm just here to say, first of all, it doesn't need to be. It should not be complicated. Just keep it simple. That's the best thing I can say. You do not need to be buying crazy products or lots of supplements. You do not need to be subscribing to extreme diets or dieting plans. Just really start with what's simple. I hear all the time from people in life saying things like, I'm going to start such and such diet as soon as this big work project's done, or as soon as the holidays are over, or when we get back from vacation. And that's always a huge red flag. If your life needs to accommodate the changes that you want to make to the way that you're eating, then that is a sign that you're trying to do something that's too complicated, it's too big of a change, because we're not trying to make changes for one day or a week or even a month. We want to make changes that we can sustain over a lifetime. And life, even if it does calm down for a little while, it doesn't stay that way. You want to make changes that you can sustain regardless of what is going on in life, how busy you are, what your stress levels are. You want what you're eating to support you regardless of that. You don't want to have to support what you're eating. So I always say, instead of focusing on the diet or the eating plan that you want to start, flip it around and say, look at where you are right now, and just ask yourself, what's one thing, one simple thing that you can do right now today? Maybe it's something as simple as switching out your regular coffee creamer. Maybe you currently use a coffee creamer that is full of sugar and chemicals, and you know that, hey, I could try and experiment with some different kinds that maybe have less ingredients or a little bit more natural. Still finding one that you enjoy. Pleasure is just as important to the eating experience as what you're putting in your body. And so maybe just starting there, experimenting with some different creamers until you find one that you like that also happens to better support you nutritionally and support your body. Maybe it's, how can you add one more glass of water into your day? Water is always a great place to start. Or maybe, how can I add one more vegetable serving throughout my day? Simple little things that are going to add up over time. I like to think of this like a volume knob. So when you're riding in your car, for example, and you have your volume set to a particular number, let's say it's set to 10, and all of a sudden you decide you want to turn it down a little. So you turn it down to an 8. Well, after a little while, your ears become accustomed to that new volume, and then you can find that you're able to turn it down a little bit more because you got used to the new volume and it doesn't seem like such a big change. It's the same thing with making changes in our life and to our nutrition. It's like a volume. We don't have to go from 10 to 1 or 1 to 10 all at one time. You can make that small change Adjust by one notch until that feels like the new normal. And then you can adjust another notch when you're ready. So what does this look like in day-to-day life for real people? So you can find all sorts of recommendations regarding dietary requirements. You're going to see requirements for everything from water to how many of each of the macros, we'll talk about macros in a moment, to your RDAs for your vitamins and minerals and other nutrients. And it's important to keep in mind a couple of things when you're talking about RDAs, recommended daily allowances, or other nutrient recommendations, is that these numbers, while they can be a helpful guideline, and it's a good place to start if you really don't know where to start at all, but other than that, they are based on what would be considered the average healthy person. So while these numbers can give you a good place to start, they're not going to be appropriate for every single person. No two people are the same, right? If you have any kind of medical issue, your nutrient needs might be different. There might be things you can or cannot have depending on your medical status. It's going to vary depending on your age, your biological gender. It's going to depend on the climate of where you live, your activity levels, what's going on with your hormones. All different factors are going to affect exactly what nutrients you need. So while these guidelines are helpful, remember that is what they are. They are just guidelines. They are not hard set rules. In addition to that, the RDAs are meant to be balanced over time. Nobody's going to sit there and count, and nobody has time to sit and count the amount of any particular nutrient they're getting every single day or at every single meal. It's just not practical. But more than that, it's also not necessary. So let's say you're talking about the recommended daily allowance for calcium. Okay, this is meant to be averaged over time. You're going to have some days where you get more calcium and some days where you get less, and that's perfectly normal and perfectly okay. So it's not something you want to be stressing about. Those are just guidelines to help you get an idea of where things are overall. So let's talk about those nutrients. When we talk about our macronutrients, we're talking about our carbohydrates, our fats, and our proteins. And these are things we see a lot of information floating around the internet on these days, that you should have more of this or less of this. Just like all those nutrients we talked about, every single person will be different. And each person will have different needs on different days. Okay, so trying to bring yourself into a specific number, it's just not really worth your time. The best thing you can do is just try to get a balance between all three of those macronutrients throughout the day, between all of your meals and snacks. Try to get some good quality carbs, proteins, and fats all throughout the day. You don't want to have all just one or all just of another. And the body does need all three of those. They all have very important functions in the body. And so any plan that's out there that's telling you to avoid all of your carbohydrates or avoid all of your fats or to only eat fats is really not serving you well. You need each of those nutrients for various functions in the body, and they all have specific purposes. So make sure you're getting a nice balance. Again, it doesn't have to be a perfect number. Just try to include a little bit of each with every snack and meal that you have. And then instead of focusing on how much, take a look at the quality. This is where those simple switches can come in. You don't need to switch everything you're eating all at one time, but trying to switch to higher quality carbohydrates that are less processed, maybe have more fiber. You can look for things like sprouted grain products. There's lots of options, any types of whole grains, lots of great options there for healthy carbohydrates. You also have all those carbohydrates that you are getting in your produce, your fruits, your vegetables, things like legumes, beans, lots of great sources of really healthy, really nutrient supportive carbohydrates that are out there. But it's not, again, something to stress about. If you're having some white flour bread or something, don't worry about that. Just try to slowly transition over time, finding the products that you enjoy, that taste good to you, and slowly making those switches one food at a time. As far as protein, same thing, looking for quality. When it comes to protein sources, if you are dealing with animal proteins, for example, when you're looking for quality, organic, pasture-raised, grass-fed are going to generally be a little bit of a better choice. However, this is not always accessible or affordable for all people, and it's important to honor that and recognize that fact. So if those are not accessible choices, then the best thing you can do is opt for leaner cuts, because those chemicals, those pesticides, antibiotics, and things that are fed to the animals do get stored in the fatty tissues. So the easiest thing to do is just buy those leaner cuts if that is accessible to you. Another great way to get your protein in that is a little bit more cost effective, because especially right now, meat prices have been increasing considerably, is to opt for plant-based proteins. There are lots and lots of great plant-based proteins options out there, ways to add protein into your meal without needing any animal products whatsoever. Those are a great option as well. And they are very cost effective. You think about something like buying a bag of dried beans. You can get a lot of beans for a very little amount of money. So something to consider there. When you're talking about fats, fats is another one, just really looking at quality. So generally with a good quality fat, you're going to want that nice balance between saturated, unsaturated, omega-3s, omega-6. So you're going, wait, what? Those are technical terms. I don't know which fats those are. You want to aim for oils that are unprocessed. So if it comes in, good rule of thumb, if it comes in a clear bottle, that is probably a processed oil, right? Because oils and fats are very reactive to light and air and heat. It is important that they do come in dark bottles. If they're coming in a light, clear plastic bottle, it is very likely deodorized and processed in such a way that a lot of those fats are going to be very harmful to the body. And again, this is not meant to stress you out about it. It's those things that you can start making those simple switches. Switching from, say, a highly processed vegetable oil to start using a less processed, more pure, say, olive oil or grapeseed oil as able to do so. And you can find those in a lot of different sources. Aldi is a great source for high quality oils at a low price if you're concerned about cost, again. But the number one thing I would say for most people, if you are looking to improve your nutrition, improve the way you're feeling, is to start with water. We often consider this the fourth macronutrient. And while there are certainly people out there who are getting plenty of water each day, I would say the vast majority of people I run into are dehydrated to some degree. So then you say, how much water is enough water? Again, there's going to be all sorts of information about this out there. The old standard that we are mostly familiar with is that 8 glasses or 64 ounces of water. This actually comes from a posting of nutrition information from the 1950s, and there is no actual cited scientific background for this number. More commonly these days, we hear a lot of people talking about having half of your body weight in ounces every day. So what that would mean is if you were a 200-pound person, that you should be drinking 100 ounces of water every day. Okay, so these are just some of the recommendations out there that you will hear. Again, everybody's different and every day will be different. Your water needs will depend on you personally and as well as climate, altitude, hormones, your activity level, all sorts of different factors. So to say that you need a certain amount of water, again, is never going to be entirely accurate. What I would recommend to people is if you aren't getting enough water right now, just try to start increasing and see how you feel. Your body will usually, I mean, your body is very good at communicating its needs, and it will tell you when you are not hydrated. So some signs that maybe you're not hydrated as well as you could be, things, there's the obvious ones such as thirst, dry mouth, and dry lips. Those are the big ones that we all think about, but also having increased headaches, increased pain levels, reduced mobility and flexibility in our tissues, reduced energy levels, inability to concentrate. There's a lot of different factors that can indicate that we have a lack of hydration. So what I do tell people, if you're not sure, I am not one to advocate for measuring food or water intakes in general. But sometimes it can be helpful just to track your water for a few days, just a very short amount of time, 3 to 5 days, just to see where you're at. This can be helpful because a lot of times our perceptions of what we're doing can be very different from reality. So this just can give us a little baseline, see where you're doing, see where you land in those recommendations, and then try to increase that a little bit and see if you feel any different, but always going with what your body needs. And then as far as what you're drinking, it doesn't have to be plain water. There's a lot of great ways you can flavor your water that not only don't affect the nutrition, but can actually increase it. Adding fresh produce, such as fresh fruits, cucumbers are great. You can add herbs are great to add to your water. You can even add, if you're somebody who's used to drinking sweetened beverages like juices, adding just a splash of 100% juice to your water, just a little bit to give it that nice flavor. Lots of different options. Ginger is a great one if you're somebody who's used to drinking like cola products. It's going to give you that spiciness. Herbal teas, lots and lots of different options out there. And then when you come to your micronutrients, that would be the last thing. Those are your vitamins and minerals. Again, you're not going to sit there and try to count how many of a certain vitamin you get. So when you want to make sure you're getting plenty of micronutrients, plenty of vitamins and minerals, the number one key is variety. Just try to eat a variety of different foods, and particularly your produce, your fruits and vegetables. But keep it simple. Again, you don't have to change everything overnight. Maybe you're just going to try one new vegetable, see what you like, or try a vegetable that you already eat, but cooking it or seasoning it in a different way. You could add one more vegetable to an existing recipe. This is a great technique. If you have a recipe that you already love, something that you already eat regularly, just ask yourself what's a simple way that you could add one more vegetable to that meal. Another great option are salads. When we think of salads, we oftentimes think of a pretty narrow range. We usually think of some sort of base of greens with some other cut up vegetables on top and some kind of dressing. But salads are incredibly versatile, and they don't have to be based in greens. You can have quinoa salads, farro salads, pasta salads, chicken salads, all different kinds of salads. I like to think of salads as casseroles that don't need to be cooked. And these are great, especially for people who are busy, who are working long hours. Maybe you don't have a lot of time for lunch. Maybe you're eating at your desk because you don't have to reheat them. You can make large batches early in the week and eat them throughout the week. Salads are a great option to really start exploring and finding all different varieties. There's flavors and textures of salads for every single palate and taste that is out there. So that's a great option. And then exploring vegetarian meals. You don't have to be a vegetarian to try a vegetarian meal. And sometimes it can simply give you ideas of different ways to incorporate vegetables into what you're eating. And then lastly, coming from the Midwest, we tend to, when we plan our meals, we tend to plan around a central meat. So growing up, I know a lot of people have experienced this. You say, well, what should we have for dinner? And everybody says, well, let's have pork chops, let's say. And then the next question is, well, what do we have with our pork chops? And then you come up with your starch. And then the vegetable is always kind of this obligatory afterthought, because we know we should have our vegetable, but not a lot of thought goes into what that vegetable is or how it's prepared. So instead of starting with the meat as the center of the meal planning process, maybe try experimenting with starting with the vegetable. Figure out something that you have, maybe that's in season, that's going to be particularly delicious, and then planning the meal around that. So those are some good ways to get those vegetables in, to get those micronutrients. But the number one message that I want to make sure everybody has, besides keeping it simple and making those small changes, is to feed yourself, okay? Number one reason people do end up having poor eating habits, where they are maybe eating mindless snacking, maybe they're binging, maybe they're relying too much on convenience foods, things like this, is because they're not adequately feeding themselves. Feed yourself wonderful food that not only fuels your body, but is also satisfying and pleasurable, that you enjoy. And when you really fuel yourself and you give yourself those building blocks and those nutrients that you need, and you're enjoying what you're eating, a lot of those other things just fall to the wayside. You don't really have to worry about trying to restrict yourself or cut anything out. Just really focus on how you can feed yourself, both physically and mentally, so that you're enjoying those meals. And that's it. That is all I have. If you do have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I do specialize in nutritional therapy as well as intuitive eating. And with that, I will pass it along to our next presenter.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kathryn. That was amazing information. And we will go right on to Charles, who will give us a little insight into the benefits of massage.
All right. Move this up so my head's not cut off. So let's just talk a little bit about massage today. So I am Charles from Massage by Charles. I'm just going to briefly talk about a few of the benefits of getting a massage on a regular basis. And then I'm going to show you a few things you can do at your desk, at home, to do in between massage sessions to kind of help keep a little bit limber, help you keep a little more alert while you are working on all the other things that all the other presenters talked about. So a few benefits of massage. First, massage relieves tension. Throughout the day, we are putting so much stress on our bodies, just being at a computer, lifting boxes, whatever we have to do. It really works our muscles and it causes a lot of tension in the body. And massage can help relieve that immensely. That's probably one of the biggest things massage can do for you. It also increases your circulation. It helps out with your lymphatic system. If you're not aware of what the lymphatic system is, it is just a fluid that is in between your cells. It carries waste products from your cells that your regular circulatory system does not pick up, and it carries it back to your heart. But unlike the circulatory system, your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like your heart does in the circulatory system. So lymphatic system relies on your muscle contractions. This is why it is so important to maintain a level of activity during your day, to get up from your desk once in a while, take a, even if it's just a 5-minute walk, something like that will help you immensely during your day to feel better and just a little more energized. Get away from that computer for a little while. Massage also lowers your stress hormones. While you are getting work done, people just tend to just melt into the table and not worry about anything. Most of my clients just tell me that they just kind of zone out for a while, or they get inspired by something. As I think Kathryn mentioned, it helps with your flexibility and mobility. It helps, oddly enough, with your skin tone. It helps your skin to be a lot more pristine. It helps not, I was going to say with the color, but that's wrong. It just helps it to be more elastic. If you have any sort of soft tissue injuries, massage can help you with that to a certain point. Obviously, if you are cut, massage will not help heal that cut, except it can break up any sort of scar tissue that might form after that cut has healed. Massage also can help with anxiety and depression. It will lower that down and just help you feel a little more at ease and help you get into a little bit more of that mindful mindset that Jessica was talking about earlier. One of the biggest things, and I don't know if a lot of people talk about this during massages, but massage makes you more aware of your own body and what is going on in it. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients tell me that, oh, I didn't even realize my shoulder hurt until you started working on it. That's because there's so much going on that you're not really even paying attention to your own body. Especially I'm a sole proprietor myself, so I know like all the advertising stuff and all the other things, the social media stuff, it could just takes up so much of our time that we're not even really thinking about our own bodies and, hey, how am I really feeling today? Until you have that chance to lay down, relax for a while, and you might notice, yeah, my shoulders are a little stiff. I didn't even realize that until I took this time for myself. So I'm going to move on to a few things you can do while you are at work or even just at home that you can help to help your body to relax in between sessions. Biggest thing, especially when you're at a desk, try to get up every 15 minutes if you can. I know that's easier said than done. I used to work as a graphic designer, so I would get involved with projects and it would be hours before I would even like get up and move and take a drink. But if you can give that just a conscious effort, every once in a while, get up, take a quick walk to wherever, even if it's just 2-3 minutes, it'll just reset the body and you can get back to your work. And I think you'll find you'll be more focused in on your work when you take those breaks. Another thing that is extremely important for anybody who is working on a computer, lace your fingers behind your back and pull your shoulders back. So one of the biggest things that I see, one of the biggest complaints, I should say, of people coming into my office is that their shoulders hurt. When we're at a computer all day, our shoulders tend to round forward like so. Your pec muscles will tighten up and your trapezius muscles and your rhomboid muscles, all the muscles in your upper back, if you don't know what I'm talking about, they get stretched. Your muscles like to be stretched, but they don't like to be stretched for 8 hours a day. And that causes them to hurt and it causes your pec muscles to tighten up. So if you can bring the shoulders back, you can stretch out the pec muscles and you can shorten those upper back muscles, and it will relieve a lot of that stress that you are putting on your back constantly. A couple things that I do, you can take your wrist like this. If you're having any sort of wrist problems, you can move your wrist like this while it's in your hand and just turn your hand. And that works these muscles right in here. Forearms, flexors and extenders of the arms and wrists get very, very tight when you're working on something. Another thing you can do is you can do very light skin rolling. So you can just pull the skin gently away from your muscles and just roll it up like this. I used to do this all the time when I was a graphic designer, because when I would be working with keyboard and mouse, invariably my wrist would get very tight. Few other things you can do, you can take this is more for at home. When you are at home, you can take a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball and you can put it right behind your shoulder, right here, right where that scapula muscle is. And you can just lean in on that. You can lie down on it. You can lean it up against a wall, something like that. And that will put pressure on those areas that you are feeling that tension. And if you get to any spot where there's a trigger point or any sort of discomfort, you can just lean into that spot and wait about 10 seconds or so. And hopefully that spot will release. It just gives you a little thing to do at home while in between like sessions. What else? You can just simply getting up and walking around, as I mentioned before, will help immensely. You can do stretches like this to your wrists, but the only thing you don't want to do there is you don't want to pull on your wrists so much that you cause pain in this area. Same thing with your neck. You can give that a little bit of a stretch to the side. That will help as well. But once again, you don't want to be cranking on your neck so much that you end up hurting anything up here. Be very gentle with any stretch that you can do. And that's really all I have. If you have any other questions, you can feel free to type them into the chat. You can look up my business and send me an email, massagebycharles.com, and go from there. I will try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you very much. And I will turn it back over to Jessica, who has a few closing words.
All right. Well, first of all, I just want to thank all of our presenters and speakers. Thank you, Ashley, Kathryn, and Charles. The information that you provided is going to be so helpful for people that are looking to build their business and also to build good work-life habits into their business. I am going to also thank everyone who watches this video. Thank you so much for joining us, for taking the time to care for your business and body and mind. And with that, again, if you do have any questions, you can type them in the chat. You can also reach out to us. We will be putting those links up on social for information for you to get a hold of each of us here. Wishing you all an empowered mindset. And if anybody else has any closing remarks, Ashley or Kathryn or Charles, or any questions. All good? Awesome. All right. So with that, I hope that we've provided you with some valuable information. I think that we have. And I look forward to guiding a practice or seeing you out and about in the world or on social. Thank you all so much.